Welcome, which is already on our shortlist, is well clear, although it's not a particularly high figure on the flat Euro, and also a close second on the FL1. A couple of horses to worry about at the bottom because they're unrated. But it does go onto our shortlist and did in fact come out as a selection. The danger of the unrated ones, you can see it here. Sopran Nad, with the 0 rating on the FL1, meaning it's got little or very little form, did go on to win the race. The 745 at Folkestone, Firefighter, is well clear, so that would go onto the shortlist as well. Going on, nothing really standing out there. Full Bloom possibly, but again it's joint rated with Flying Phoenix, so just got to pause. Now I've forgotten where I've got to, but I'll try and carry on. Okay, Sandown, Hip Hip Hooray, in the 825. Again, nothing really standing out there. Coming to the last race, the 835 at Chepstow, Polar Annie is very well clear on the flat Euro and also clear on the FL1. So we should now have some additions to our shortlist of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more horses. So we'll go back across to the other sheet, take a quick look at the odds and see which ones we're going to put some bets on. So going back up, we've got nothing in the 210 or the 220. Charles Moore was picked out on the flat sheet. So looking across, it is pretty well clear. It's very close second in speed. It's not too far behind on MSC, and it's pretty well clear on the other ratings. So Charles Moore becomes a selection. And that came off the second sheet. Moving down, we didn't have anything in the 240 anyway. 250 Starbound was picked out. It is clear in the master rating. It's pretty close second on speed. Clear in both the Neuro and New Neuro. That's clear on the CLA rating. It's sort of third, fourth on MSC. I did put this in as a selection. Now, whether or not you would is another matter. There are reasons not to pick it, as well as reasons to pick it. It tends to average out in the end anyway. So Starbound goes in as a selection. Next horse along is the 310 at Haydock, where we had a selection. Our selection was Hunter Forward. Now, this one was scotched not because of any other reason other than the fact that the odds were too low, and whilst it did go on to win, the odds were only 1.79. So that was knocked out purely because of odds. Next race along, where we have a selection, is the 340 at Haydock, where Brocklebank is our selection. I scotched that, and without looking back at the odds, I suspect it was on an odds basis. I don't know what odds it went out of. Let's just see if we can have a look. So it's a 340 at Haydock on Thursday the 4th. Let's just bring that back up again. Haydock, 340. Brocklebank went off at 1.98 BSP, so I would have taken it out because of odds, not for any other reason. So it did actually knock a loser out, but it was purely on an odds basis. I don't like 3-horse races much anyway. Tend to be run at a strange pace very often. So our next selection was Cathcart Castle, that came from the flat sheet. Looking across, it is pretty well clear, so that goes in as a selection. So we now have 3, which is Charlesmore, Starbound, Cathcart Castle. Our next selection, which came off the flat sheet, is the 420, which is Negotiation. It's not particularly clear on Master, but it is pretty well clear across the board, so that goes in as a selection. Bearing in mind I'm doing this as a very, very basic way, you would have some caution because of the closeness of diverting in particular, which did go on to win, but it was clear enough to warrant putting that in as a selection. Our next selection is the 450 at Yarmouth. These are the shortlisted ones, which is Miss Polly Plum, which came off sheet 2. It's pretty well clear. Very close second on speed, clear in these two. Second from bottom in CLA, close second in MSC, so it goes in as a selection. So Miss Polly Plum. I took that one out, and I suspect again that was probably because of odds. Yarmouth 450. No, it wasn't because of odds. So I crossed that one out. Now, why did I cross that one out? Let's look at sheet 2. There was a reason why I didn't put it in, and I'm looking for it now. It's not on that sheet. Probably because it wasn't far enough clear on an average basis. So Miss Polly Plum was crossed and did not go into selection. You may well have put it in, and again it will even itself out. Our next selection is the 610 at Sandown, which is Volcanic Dust. This one I didn't put in, purely and simply because you have two fully unrated horses there, and I also suspect that Green Apple is not a fully rated horse. Whilst it did go on to win, and again I say this because some you'll win, some you'll lose. It's not an exact science. You pick out the ones that you think are going to win using the ratings. So Volcanic Dust was taken out. Our next one is 635 at Folkestone, which was School Fees. That came from sheet 2 again. And yes, we'll put that one in as a selection. It is clear across the board. The only concern would be Shamahan, really, because of no rating, but that goes in as a selection. Moving on to the 655 at Chepstow. The horse that was picked out on sheet 2 was Silvus Romana. It's clear pretty much across the board. CLA is a close second anyway, so yes, and it's well clear in terms of an average rating, showing very good odds in comparison to the value odds. So that one definitely goes in as a selection, as does the next race, the 710, which is Anjamaba. Again, clear across the board, really. So Anjamaba goes in. 720 at Sandown, Tenby Lady was picked up initially. It is clear it's a close second on speed. It's joint top on the MSC rating. It is behind on CLA, but not dangerously so, although it is bottom rated, but there's not a massive difference. They're all quite well rated. So Tenby Lady goes in. And we move on to the 730, Dancing Welcome. It's clear. Again, we're pointing out, as we did on sheet 2, the danger of horses that aren't rated. Some you'll win, some you'll lose. Sopranad really has got little or no form to go by. And if we move down, looking at other horses, Rich Harvest, I would say, is certainly lacking some form somewhere, as is She's Untouchable. So this one goes in purely and simply because it's over 10% on the master. It's pretty well clear across the board. It's second on speed. It's pretty well clear on an average rating. Sopranad goes on to win, and it's always very difficult to judge these horses with little or no form. Moving on to the next race, Firefighter was a selection, but looking at the odds it went off, it was just scotched because of odds anyway. And our final selection is the 835 at Chepstow, Polar Annie, which came from sheet 1 anyway. And again, it's pretty well clear. It's very close second on speed, it's close second on MSC, it's well clear as an average rating, and it's top across the board. It's very well clear on the Neuro so that one goes in as a selection as well. So that should give you a rough idea of how we pick selections just using the rating sheets in a very, very basic way without doing any further research. You do get, as you get false favourites, you also get false high-rated horses. So there are ways to cut this down and do a bit more research, but that will be another video. You should have had, at the end of the day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 selections for the day. Looking at the sheets, you can see which ones won, which ones didn't. That resulted in a net profit of, I think it was about 11 points on the day. It doesn't always work. We have winning days, we have losing days. But that should give you an indication of what to look for when using the ratings in a basic way.